Hello crafty friends, welcome back to my channel. I am so excited to share this video with you today. So today I am hopping along with the Hutson Essentials by Ellen release that Christine Herron of Everyday Explorers Co. designed, and when they asked me to participate in this hop, I said yes because one, Christmas, and two, Everyday Explorers Co. I am the hugest fan of Christine and her designs. I have a giant soft spot for Everyday Explorers Co. So I was super pleased when they asked me if I wanted to participate in this blog hop. So for my project, because a lot of the consumers of Ellen Hutson products are traditionally card makers, I decided to see if I could use these products on a layout. So I have this photo of my mother and my cousin when I went to Georgia 2 Christmases ago. They're just being complete hams in front of the fireplace. It's a great picture, but they're just being complete hams. And I printed my photo at 6x8, and then I have my journaling on this 5x8 canvas, and I'm working on building. So the first thing I decided to do was die cut a door into my journaling for an extra photo, and I'm using some Hero Arts Peekaboo dies. Normally I do this with like an X-Acto knife and a ruler, but I gotta tell you, having these dies has just been life-changing. Oh, also I'm probably gonna say that things are life-changing 100 times in this video, so prepare yourself. Here's something else that's life-changing is my Misty. I can stamp because I have a Misty. I couldn't stamp before, and I think the Misty has just been life-changing. So there we go. That's 2 times that we say it in the context of this video. But I pulled out that diagonal stripe stamp, and I'm stamping it with red Catherine Pooler ink. This is the Rouge color, and the Catherine Pooler inks are a dye ink, and they're just a wonderful formulation if you're looking for a dye ink. So I'm stamping it down using my Misty, which is amazing because if I wanted to stamp it more than once, I totally could, but I got great color coverage from the Catherine Pooler ink the first time, and I didn't have to stamp it a second time. So here's the third thing that is life-changing on this layout, this embossing ink. I have been playing around with embossing for some time. I pick it up and I put it down over and over because I can't ever figure out what I'm doing wrong. And I think part of the reason why I was struggling was I couldn't find an embossing ink that I loved. Well, Versamark is 100% it for me. I'm just such a fan. Also, Versamark plus the Misty, a match made in heaven because I can stamp more than once and make sure that I get really good color coverage. Well, I guess ink coverage with my embossing ink so that when it's time to put the embossing powder down, it sticks really well. So I'm stamping and embossing with antique gold embossing powder, quickly heat setting that, and there it goes. Look at that. I'm so impressed. And it's not great embossing by any stretch of the imagination, you guys. It's still kind of wonky and it's still less than perfect, but I am just making so much progress with this medium, and I imagine that if I keep working at it, it's going to get better. Now I'm stamping some of those leaf sprigs with Catherine Pooler spruce ink, and this is just the perfect holiday green. It's so good. These dye inks are just wonderful. And I'm using a little acrylic block instead of my Misty to do it because I knew I was going to be stamping it more than once, and it was just going to be easier to hand stamp it. And if I couldn't stamp tiny little leaf sprigs, then I probably should just hang it up and never stamp anything again. So to attach my photo into my window, I first stuck the photo down to a scrap of cardstock that was about 2 inches wide, and then maybe 5 inches long. It's a little bit narrower, than the width of my journaling. And I stuck the tabs down from the sides of the photo directly to, this is kind of hard to explain, but pretty much you just take the excess cardstock on the outside and then you stick that down to the journaling so that when you flip up the door, there you go. There is my photo. And I'm very comfortable with doing this because when I build my albums, I stick things back to back. So they're totally going to be stuck down. Now this is what Laura Basson would call the Christmas rainbow. And so I did what Laura Basson might call stripping it up. I felt so fancy doing this, you guys. Like, you have no idea how easy this little thing was. I felt so fancy. So I took some reds and greens and oranges, cut them into 1/2-inch strips, stuck them down to a piece of cardstock that was a little bit bigger than the size of my tag, die cut my tag out, and there you go. Now, here's another thing that's life-changing. This is what, 4, 5? Who knows? But here's another thing that's life-changing. My Gemini Junior. I keep my Gemini Junior on my desk now, and it's just It's life-changing. I do so much more die cutting now. Before, I used to be using my Big Shot, which was like tucked in a small, like it was tucked in the calyx cube that was the furthest away from me. So I never reached for it. And then whenever I did want to do some die cutting, I had to dig it out, and it was always heavy. And now my Gemini Junior lives right next to me all the time. So I'm like, I'm literally a die cutting machine with a die cutting machine. And how perfect is that? Okay, back to the layout. So we're adding more strips. And here's something else that you can do to help with design. And you're probably like, Tashi, this isn't rocket science. But if you repeat your design elements on both sides of your layouts instantly look more put together and more cohesive. So I took remnants of those same paper strips and added it above my door, and there we go. We got the Christmas rainbow on both sides. So now I'm like, hey, you know what else this side needs? Embossing. Now, I could have hand stamped this, but there's a reason I put it in my Misty, because now my cardstock is textured because I have those paper strips, right? It's no longer that nice flat layer. So I wanted to make sure that I got a fair amount of embossing ink on this. So I put it back in my Misty, and I have a bunch of different size magnets. I stamped it twice, and I left all the embossing in this time so you can see how much better I am at it. So, you know, the other thing is that's been life-changing is two things. I now keep a paintbrush by my desk that's only for sweeping away additional embossing powder. Like I'm not a card maker, but I watch the card makers because the card makers know what they're doing. So I watch the card makers, and they're all like, have a dry brush for sweeping away embossing powder. And I'm like, this is such a good idea. So I have that now. The other thing I've started doing, and I don't know why it took me so long to figure out, but your heat tool just has to be hot. So what I used to do is just turn on my heat tool and try to emboss immediately. I'm actually burning my fingers right now. If you can't tell by how many times I dropped my tag, because my embossing gun is so hot that I'm literally burning my fingers. I need to get a clothespin like Kathy Zilski does for embossing so I don't melt my fingers. But look at how fast that embossing powder melted. So I've learned that you need to start preheating your embossing tool. It's perfect. Okay. So now we're pulling out the icon stamp set, and we're stamping some icons. And I stamped a few of them in Gina K black amalgam ink. You guys, I used like literally 3 inks for this whole like layout. You don't need a million ink colors to make something that's fun. So I stamped the black things in Gina K jet black amalgam ink, which I have an ink cube of because I wasn't sure if it was going to be my thing, but a lot of people say that it's a really good Copic color friendly ink, and I don't have Copic markers. I have another brand of alcohol ink markers because I wasn't sure if they were going to be a medium that I was invested in, and Copics can be an investment. So I figured I'd try it with a more mid-priced option, and then if I loved it, then I could invest in Copics. The jury's still out on how I feel about alcohol ink markers, but I'm doing what the card makers tell me to do, which is put down a full layer of the light color, then go back in with your darker tone, add in some shadows, and then go back in with your light color to blend everything out. And I gotta say, this wreath thing, it looks pretty good. I'm kind of proud of it. I did a lot of coloring, and I stamped 2 of each icon because I wasn't sure if the coloring was going to go well. So I wanted to make sure I had more than one option in case I completely botched it. And I stamped this on Nina Classic Crest Solar White cardstock. This is the 80-pound version. It's what I do everything on. It's the paper that I print on. It's my favorite cardstock ever. I'm never going back to anything else, like ever. I'm sticking to this because it's just the best cardstock ever. And a lot of people that I see do Copic coloring, they color on this cardstock also. So yeah, it worked out really well. So I went in with the greens, and then I went in with 2 reds and colored in that bow. Again, going in with the light color, putting down a full layer of color, and then going in with the darker color to add shadows, and then going back in with a lighter color to blend. See? So now we have the magic of the Gemini Junior. I popped all the dies on, quickly popped that into my machine, and look at that present. How darling is she? So I die cut all those icons, and now I'm working on arranging it onto my layout. And I'm treating these icons the same way I would treat like stickers or chipboard or whatever have you, just arranging them across the page, trying to decide what feels balanced, what colors do I want. And then I'm like, you know what this needs? This needs more stamping. So I really wanted to stamp another sentiment under that have a holiday treat gold embossed thing that I did. And so I kept picking up the stamp set going, what do I want to put here? What do I want to put here? And there's these really like smaller, like I guess they're sub-sentiments. And so I grabbed the one that said just for you, and I stamp it in the Gina K jet black amalgam ink. Now I probably could have hand stamped this, but the reason I put it back in the Misty was because this is a textured piece, and if I didn't get good ink coverage the first time, I wanted to be able to stamp it a second time. So that's why I put it in the Misty. Also, my Misty is always on my desk, so it's not like a hardship to reach for it. And I just keep a piece of paper towel next to my Misty for when I'm going to be doing sort of stamping like this, because I find that having like something that glides on the Misty door helps you get like the best color coverage. Yeah, the color coverage when you're stamping. So I'm popping some of my icons up on foam, putting some of them straight down on the page, making little clusters. I like to do things in groups of 3. So I put that green ornament, that wreath, and then that present box over on the right side of the page, and then I put some of the other icons over on the left side of the page. And I'm sticking things down using a combination of some American Crafts sticky foam thumb squares and ATG tape. Again, just popping things up on foam. I love foam tape. Now I do put the candy cane over where the hole is on the tag, so you kind of lose the fact that it's a tag, which I don't really mind, but you totally lose that it's a tag because I popped it right over the hole. So now it looks like there's just a little rectangle hanging out, which I think is just really fun. It looks like it's a 3x4 card that I put on its side that matches the card that's on the other side on top of my door. So I think the next thing I do, yeah, so I end up stamping another heart because I realized that I wanted to put some sort of embellishments on top of my photo. So I pulled back out my heart because I have that snowflake and I wanted one more thing. So I pulled back out my stamps, I stamp a heart, quickly die cut it the same way, pop it through my Gemini, which is always on my desk, so I can do things like this. Like if I'm working, I can quickly just die cut something without having to like second guess it. And I've been using the scrapbook.com mint low tack tape for die cutting. It's wonderful, and that pretty much completes this layout. So I hope you enjoyed this process. Feel free to head on over to the coordinating blog post, which will be linked in the description box, to hop along with me. There are so many wonderful people making things with this release, and I think you're just going to be so inspired, and you're probably going to need everything. But a warm thank you to Ellen Hutson for allowing me to participate in this hop. I had the best time playing with this stuff, and you guys know I'm a huge fan of Everyday Explorers Co. So anything Christine throws at me, I'm just gonna love. So that's it, you guys. Please like and comment. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let me know if this has inspired you to pull out some products and put it on a page that you might not normally have, and if it's inspiring you to tell any Christmas stories of your own. Until next time, keep it crafty and have the very best day, and I will see you around. Bye!